There is nothing wrong with your radio.
Do not attempt to adjust the volume.
We are controlling the broadcast.
For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the Media Mothership.
All right, welcome to Media Mothership, broadcasting out of Edge Radio Studios here in Hobart, Tasmania, Nipaluna. We're streaming on edgeradio.org.au as well as out across 99.3 FM. And you can also, if you're wanting to further dive into the webs, go into our live stream on YouTube or Twitch. Just search for Media Mothership, which also means you can message us on the chat at YouTube or Twitch, or SMS us directly here in the studio on 04888 11707. So this is Media Mothership. We're exploring everything in and around the world of media, in particular how media shapes our understanding of the world around us. I'm your host, Fred Craig, and it's just me in the studio this afternoon on Friday 11th of November at 5:03 p.m. Exploring the media landscape and the motherships that we confront around us. Today's topic, we're going to look at the next 5 minutes of House on Haunted Hill. We are up to minute 40, would you believe? We're going to dive into some of the latest news and happenings in or around the media landscape. So keep listening here on Edge Radio for exciting material on Media Mothership.
My name is...
Yes, welcome back. Double bluesy vibe here to Media Mothership on Edge Radio. Let's just start off by keep going with our almost our afternoon. You know, I kind of think of it like a children's book these days. Although it's serious. House on Haunted Hill, 1959, classic film starring Vincent Price. Many people consider it one of, amongst one of their favorite Vincent Price movies. If you look on YouTube for House on Haunted Hill, it's all over the place because, interestingly, it fell into the public domain because the studio that had it, that owned it, the publisher that had it, forgot to renew the license for it, or the proprietary license for it. So it fell into public domain, luckily. So it's all ours. Ours in terms of the public sphere to engage with. So we're at minute 40, and leading up to this moment, we had the reveal of everyone getting party guns. So, of course, we've got our 7 contestants staying over in a haunted house to see who can make it through to the end, and they'll each get thousands of dollars of 1959 US currency. In this scene, in this 5 minutes, Nora's taken everyone up to her room to show them the head in her luggage bag. All right, so of course, in a few previous scenes, she'd opened her luggage and found there was a head in there, a woman's head. So she takes it off, and unsurprisingly, there's nothing there. Nothing there. So again, further doubling down on the idea is only Nora is seeing these horrific images. Why Nora? Why is Nora being chosen? So everyone's very concerned about her. The doctor helpfully steps in and asks her to be sedated in very 1959 doctor's approach. Hysteria and sedation seem to be the two playbooks here for 1959 otherworldly phenomena. So then everyone's getting worried, and they're going to try and figure out how they can help Nora. Our main hero is most aggrieved. Of course, he tries to help, but then in a really interesting reveal, he goes into a room and finds the head. It looks to be a dummy's head. So he's trying to find Nora, who's since left that room, walking around trying to find her, confronts Pickett, the ghost tour operator that's in the house, and confronts him and says, have you been setting this up? And he says in this very chilling dialogue, that they've got her now. In fact, let's listen to some of this great 1959 scene. We'll set it up with the doctor first prescribing his wisdom to Nora as she's taken everyone into the room to try and get them to see the head.
But it was in there. A woman's head.
Nora, I think you're a little upset. Would you care for a sedative?
Get out!
Would you care for a sedative? I think that could be almost my mobile phone ringtone. Would you care for a sedative? I think that could could work. Now, a few weeks ago, last week, we kind of unpacked the idea of how jump scares work. Now, just to remind us, I'll play a little clip from Studio Binder that breaks down the 4 key jump scares that can occur in a film. Just to remind us of those 2 ones which we're going to be setting up.
This is What Is a Jump Scare? There are 2 main types of jump scares: shock
Great party, isn't it?
and suspense. Shock is created by a sudden and unexpected event.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this.
Suspense is created by a delayed and expected event.
God damn it!
So that clip is adorable. Adorable might be the wrong word. Is wonderful to play out on the audio bandwidths. So I wonder if people as well listening to that could guess the choice of films. For those that were very curious, the first 2 sequences were from The Shining. Then we had the scene in Jaws where Chief Brody is chumming the water and the shark suddenly appears. And then wrapping it up, we have a scene from It. And those with a particularly acute ear would probably have heard Nicolas Cage's voice at the very end saying, "God damn it," from Wicker Man. So that clip was basically unpacking that there are 2 types of shocks, 2 types of jump scares. One is a shock jump scare, which created from a sudden and unexpected event. So again, that could be the moment of Jack Torrance suddenly whacking that axe into the other character's chest. That suddenly came out of nowhere. It's a shocking jump scare. It's got no build up. The timing just comes down to when to spring the surprise. And then there's the suspense jump scare, which is created when there's a delayed and expected event. We know that something's happening. So last week we talked about Alfred Hitchcock's bomb in a cafe anecdote, where he says, you can just have a bomb explode in a cafe and film it, and that would be shocking to an audience. Or you can let the audience know that there's a bomb under a table, and then let the scene play out. And you try and keep that tension building for as long as possible for an audience to really fret over when that bomb's going to go off. And that's where suspense lies, Hitchcock says. Hitchcock says suspense lies in not exploding the bomb. So in the last 5 minutes we had of House on Haunted Hill, we did indeed have what I'm going to say is a kind of 1959 shock jump scare. It's where Lance, hero pilot, goes back into Nancy's room as he's worried about her. And we'll play that scene and, again, listen to those audio cues and, in particular, pay attention to when the sting hits. As we went over with jump scares, it comes down to a bit of timing, right? So are you going for shock timing, right, to suddenly reveal it? Or are you going for suspense timing? So pay attention to that music to see, are they building suspense through the use of music here? Non-diegetic music. So this is the kind of scoring orchestra sound in the background. Also, listen out if there's some diegetic suspense, right? I'll tip you off with the creaky door, right? So that, again, how do they use that sound of a creaky door to ramp up the audience's expectation that a jump scare is possibly just around the corner? And see how they deliver it with a sting, right? So the sting, of course, is that typically loud noise which accompanies the jump. This can be diegetic, right? So in this sense, listen to how they've combined the creaky door with what we can imagine is the jump moment in this sequence, and also listen to the non-diegetic sound, which is the kind of music score that they've set to that. So here we'll play the sequence of Jack going into Nora's room looking for Nora and how they build up a jump scare.
Nora?
All right, so we had that kind of creaky door sound, and then the sting, that kind of. I can't deliver it in a kind of scary way, but nevertheless, that idea that suddenly we have that jump scare. So there we go. Those last 5 minutes of House on Haunted Hill, quite creepy, and we got to see some interesting effects for the woman's head. It is a bit creepy. I just want to play one last bit of dialogue because I do think it's quite wonderfully delivered. It's where Lance is confronting the ghost tour operator who, at this stage in the film, is very drunk and is beginning to babble. So let's listen to his babble because it is delivered so effectively, and it is about, I think where this film does work is that the actors are committed to it. They're not, parodying the performance. And this is a wonderfully hammy performance here.
Where is she? It's too late. It's too late. You'll never find her again.
Pritchard, if you know where she is, you better tell me now.
She's gone. She's gone with them. And there's nothing you can do about it.
All right. And again, a gurgled scream. So wonderfully delivered. The gurgled scream may be a bit hammy, but that wonderful dialogue of she's gone, you'll never find her, she's gone with them. It's building it up. 43 minutes in, got an hour and 14-minute total film. So we're at that just under halfway mark now. So yeah, look, it's building up. It's building up. And it does then do a bit of a fake out leading into the next 5 minutes, where we're going to be revealed who was making that gurgled scream there on House on Haunted Hill, minute 40 to 45. All right, welcome back to Media Mothership here on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. Let's just jump into some news. Big news is, at least for me, because I was quite a fan of this series, is that Westworld has been cancelled by HBO. This has been covered in a number of news sources. Here, the CBR.com website talks about, from their point of view, how shocking this decision was, as HBO has opted not to renew its science fiction Western series Westworld, despite the creators hoping for one final season. And so, as we know, there's been 4 seasons made of Westworld. Westworld, of course, series created by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, premiered way back in October 2016, and it was a series based on the 1973 film of the same name, Westworld. Great film. I remember seeing it as a kid with Yul Brynner as the robot bad guy cowboy. And it's written, of course, and directed back in 1973 by Michael Crichton, famous for, various books, many of which have been turned into films such as Jurassic Park. It also, the 73 film also had a sequel in 76 called Future World. And the first 2 seasons of Westworld were primarily set in the Wild West themed setting of an android park, which is populated by androids, who in Westworld were known as hosts. And, human visitors would go there, much like an amusement park, and be able to live out their Red Dead Redemption type fantasies or anxieties. And later seasons kind of went into the near future world of humans and talked about the kind of implications of powerful artificial intelligence and their control over us. So, it was full of high concepts. Again, I found it a really excellent series, had a great cast with some really well-known actors in it, Luke Hemsworth, Ed Harris, amongst many others. And it had, really, really good music. I did enjoy some of the adaptations in Yieldy music scoring of contemporary songs that they played throughout the series. Unfortunately now cancelled. An article a few days later from AV Club pointed out that although Westworld's cancelled, a type of silver lining is that the cast are all going to be paid like there is a final season produced. And it turns out in this article by on AV Club that while HBO certainly has cancelled Westworld, so there'll be no 5th season, even though it was kind of pitched and the showrunners envisaged it having the 5th season, the deal that the cast had was referred to as a pay-or-play contract, right? And this meant that this was when they were doing the 4th season, so the cast accepted to do a 4th season on a pay-or-play contract, which meant that the 5th season, which would be the last, even if it didn't happen, they would still be paid for it. And this allegedly increased the sum that was required to invest in making the 4th season to some $10 million. Whoa. Because it had to basically pay for 2 seasons. So interestingly, the HBO have paid for a 5th season in terms of the cast, but nevertheless cancelled it. Which again was why many people were surprised that it was cancelled. And the speculation is that the cut wasn't the result of Warner Brothers, that instead it was the Discovery CEO David Zaslav, who simply probably asked a very straightforward question about how much are we getting for all this money, and the assessment would be that it's not, because Westworld, was always considered one of the most expensive television shows to make. Certainly, many of the articles point out the staggeringly expensive price tag of producing Westworld. And if you look at the numbers, while the first Westworld series was very, very successful, numbers did continue to dwindle. The 4th season only averaged about 4 million viewers. If you compare that to House of the Dragon, which just premiered, that brought in about 30 million viewers. And that House of Dragon cost $35 million less to make. So Westworld, very expensive, and simply, not going to deliver on that huge cost, which is a real shame. Because, again, I found that concept of AI, the future, and so forth to be really fascinating, and that kind of nostalgic retro vibe that it had to be most enjoyable. All right, next story is, look, Disney. So a few weeks ago we talked about how Disney have bought out Doctor Who. So the BBC have not renewed, or have not renewed the contract with ABC Australia to have Doctor Who. So ABC Australia will no longer be doing the new Doctor Who season or airing it. Instead, it will be going to Disney Plus. And 2 weeks back, there was discussion about what Disney Plus's view is, or kind of their approach to Doctor Who's going to be. And so far, this is very new, so it's only being discussed. But some of the quotes coming out are interesting in terms of what impact it's going to have. Allegedly, it's been explained that Disney will have a say in creative decisions for Doctor Who under the terms of a co-production deal made with the BBC over its long-running sci-fi series Doctor Who. And Disney's going to give the show a vast budget beyond the BBC's means, allowing for more cinematic production values and more stars. But it said that these high budgets for the production are commercially sensitive and have not been revealed. So, yeah, a number of news sources have reported on Disney's going to be giving Doctor Who a Hollywood makeover. And if anyone remembers that, the Doctor Who movie, which came out in, I want to say 2005, 4 maybe, or maybe even earlier, which had attempted to do a Hollywood makeover and didn't go as well. We can only hope this time it will work better. So yeah, that's some interesting Disney news there about Doctor Who and the impact that might have on the series going forward, which will be intriguing to hear. Next bit of news, just quickly to go over, is an interesting one in terms of, I'm always interested to see moments of prohibition and collaboration in terms of how companies respond to fans or individuals using their material and kind of just doing something else with it. So in this one, it's Ikea has sent lawyers after an indie game developer for making a horror game about a furniture store. So the story goes on. This was reported in Eurogamer, that IKEA's issued a cease and desist demand to an indie horror developer, insisting they change their as of yet unreleased horror game in a bid to stop press and players from comparing the store that's represented in this horror game to the actual global furniture chain. I guess in this prohibition sense, in terms of wanting to control the message, IKEA here has just felt there's nothing beneficial to their brand about being associated with a horror game, even an indie one. So the name of the game, I think, is The Store is Closed. And whilst the game doesn't use any IKEA products, names, or branding, IKEA believes that the developer is still infringing on the copyright because of the kind of template they've used of a organized layout of a store and IKEA-like items and as you walk around it. So IKEA's lawyer, so this is a quote from the game developer Ziggy, who says that IKEA's lawyer contacted him about The Store is Closed. And he goes on to say, I was going to spend the last week of my Kickstarter preparing an update for all the new alpha testers, but now I've got to desperately revamp the entire look of the game so I won't get sued. So when asked if he'd intentionally designed the store or its contents with IKEA in mind, Ziggy, the designer, said, I bought generic furniture asset packs to make this game. Yeah, so his defense was that, he'd bought these asset packs of a generic furniture to make the game, but IKEA has not been convinced by this, saying that it does fringe too much on it. And to read the legal paperwork, it goes on to say, your game uses a blue and yellow sign with a Scandinavian name on the store, a blue box-like building, yellow vertical striped shirts identical to those worn by IKEA personnel, a grey path on the floor, furniture that looks like IKEA furniture, and product signage that looks like IKEA signage. All the foregoing immediate suggests that the game takes place in an Ikea store. And look, I mean, yes, Ikea is perfectly within their rights to sue based on what they feel is quite clear similarities. And given this game is commercial, that the developer is making money out of using their established brand identity. But, it always presents this question of whether you collaborate or prohibit. Media theorist Henry Jenkins talks about various cases of companies kind of getting a lot of bad press because of prohibiting, or exerting quite strenuous cease and desist approaches to fans modding their games or using their property in their games. Typically, some companies will collaborate if there's no money being made from those fan productions. So if fans go ahead and create a Star Trek show in their backyard, as long as there's no commercial effort, Paramount's reasonably happy for that to occur, and even pop up on YouTube. Interestingly, Henry Jenkins gives the case of Mentos and Coca-Cola as an example of collaboration, where on YouTube, maybe 8-10 years ago, for those that remember YouTube back then, there was that phenomena of people putting Mentos mints in Coke bottles, causing huge jets of foam to spew out of the bottle. And these were going all the way through YouTube as it became quite a phenomena. And Coke and Mentos decided to collaborate with that and create these incredibly orchestrated kind of science lab experiments of dropping Mentos into Cokes at ever and ever greater volumes and numbers. And so, that was a case of Coke and Mentos, rather than trying to cease and desist this wasteful usage of their product in a way not representative of what the brand is doing. Instead, just jumped into it and doubled down and created more. So, was there an opportunity here for IKEA to collaborate in some way? Tricky, again, when it's a commercial property, commercial initiative. This guy's trying to still make money out of it. But nevertheless, that idea of IKEA at that point, at what point do you step over the line? And certainly from IKEA's point of view, this guy has, even though, as he claims, he bought the assets from a third party. But it's interesting to look at. Very interesting to look at and consider what's going on with that. All right, welcome back to Media Mothership here on Edge Radio. Let's have a quick look now at a little musical treat. I'm just going to play a little bit of this announcement teaser. Here on Media Mothership, we're looking at how, I guess, a property can incorporate other media to expand its interest. This is 2 weeks ago. It's from a board game announcing their expansion, and I'll just play the announcement teaser to see if people can guess what setting and even maybe what game this is.
It's been a long journey, but you are finally here. Welcome to a paradise so colourful that it makes a rainbow a bit shy. A place of wonder, rising above the waves of 2 oceans of our planet. Welcome to Wingspan, Oceania.
Now, what's interesting to me about this clip is, it's for Wingspan, as this says. To analyze it a bit, what's intriguing to me, of course, is how this is circulating beyond one property into another. So we have a board game that this is set within Wingspan, and then we have the digital game extension of this, so the Wingspan digital game. And intriguingly, what people enjoy about this game is its scientific deep dive into the bird ecology, that it does provide people with quite deep data on birds as you're playing the game. And this expansion is in Oceania, so it includes Australian birds and their sounds. And what's quite fun about it is I think how clever they've been at incorporating digital media within it. So you have the board game, you have its digital game extension, then you also have, if you're playing the board game, an app you can put on your phone to use a QR code, or actually not even a QR code, you just put the camera over the card that you have in the game, and then it will then play audio of the bird's song or sound. Which I think is quite interesting in terms of trying to create immersion, as we were talking about before with jump scares and the effective use of music, diegetic and non-diegetic sound to deliver a jump scare. Here, with this teaser, we can hear again this idea of diegetic and non-diegetic sound to create immersiveness for those that would like to play a game about birds. So again, hearing the bird sounds as well as being able to hear this expansion into Australia. Last two pieces of news, Toho has announced a new Godzilla movie for theatrical release in 2023. Many people might not know that November 3rd, was that 2 weeks ago now, was Godzilla Day. Yes, Godzilla Day. Probably got a little overshadowed by Halloween. Why November 3rd, you might ask? Well, it turns out that November 3rd was the release date for Godzilla, which I think is a little uncreative. I mean, if you're going to come up with a fake fan holiday for a media property, the date that it was released really is not world building at all. If you have a look, for instance, or at least humorous, right? So I think the two, there are a number of good examples. May the 4th is at least a pun. It's at least humorous. And it evokes May the Force be with you, right? So it has this clever play on a key concept within the Star Wars universe. So on May the 4th, fans celebrate and discuss Star Wars. There are other fan holidays. I remember one, while it wasn't terribly successful, was Alien Day, which I think is April 26th or something. And April 26th based on the moon, LGV 426, which the alien was found in that first movie. So again, play on a number that's significant in the movie. I know there was Back to the Future Day, again, a few years back, when we reached that milestone of the future date as envisaged by Back to the Future. This year, for example, is Soylent Green year. So this is the year that the 1970s movie Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston, is set. So I think there are opportunities for Godzilla to actually choose a day which was at least in conversation with the conceptual landscape of its films, as opposed to simply the date it was commercially released, which is a bit of a fizzer for me in terms of world building. They could have chosen the day that the Japanese trawling boat that was exposed to nuclear radiation was affected, a real-world setting, by a U.S. nuclear bomb test. That was the genesis for the Godzilla film, that news story. Back in the early 50s in Japan. It could be that. Choose that date. Or the date that Godzilla made landfall in the original 1954 Godzilla film. Yeah, any of those would have at least been intriguing in this alternate world building moment. But anyway, the big thing was, what did that happen on November 3rd? There was a tweet that Toho Films released, or Godzilla official Twitter account released, which is the official, we assume, Godzilla one, which forensic fans have speculated suggests a new Godzilla film because it has a kind of very stylized calligraphy G that also looks like a Godzilla tail, with the date 2023, November 3. Very exciting. So yeah, we've got the US Godzilla, of course, series, which is running. It's got a new Godzilla vs. King Kong movie around the corner. But now it looks like Toho themselves might do one. The last Toho Godzilla film was Shin Godzilla, which was directed by Hideki Anno, famous for Evangelion and other Japanese media properties. And many people, including myself, regard Shin Godzilla as an excellent contribution to this space. For the first time, a Godzilla film really effectively used its humans in the film as well as the giant monsters. It was a real masterclass in being able to balance human actions as not being completely B-plot and giant monster actions by treating it as a disaster movie. And having a bit of, anecdotal myth building around real life events like the Fukushima tsunami and other events. That's the interesting Godzilla news. Pretty much bringing us to a wonderful conclusion here to an abridged session of Media Mothership for Friday 11th of November. There'll be some more discussion and news next week around the next 5 minutes of House of Haunted Hill. Do have a listen to the entirety of that Studio Binder, What Makes a Great Jump Scare YouTube. It's quite an interesting way to look at the 4 ways to terrify audiences. If you dislike horror movies, this might be a way of approaching them scientifically, looking at what jump scare techniques a film is approaching you with. Knowledge is useful. So we'll be watching the next 5 minutes, minute 45 to 50 of House on Haunted Hill 1959, and more interesting media news and discussion as it happens. So this has been Dr. Craig Norris from Edge Radio 99.3 FM here on Edge Radio, with everything in and around the world of media and entertainment. Coming up 6, we'll have Adrian and You Can't Sit Down. So definitely keep hanging around listening to some fantastic music that Adrian will be bringing in. Have a great weekend. This has been Media Mothership with Dr. Craig Norris.
I got a demon in me, and I think it's winning. I keep on sinning. This syllabus is